All right, let us get started with, let's keep redlining out of the multiverse, metaverse, multiverse, all the verses. All right, let's define it. Keep that in your brain as we're going through this. And then keep this one too. This one's a little bit more loosey-goosey. All right, well, who are we and where are we from?
That's me.
This is all I have to do for Kellee. That's it.
A long time ago, I worked on that game. So after that game, I left that game company. I think I'll briefly touch on sort of the through line here is certainly that game company and my tenure with them was at a time when digital distribution really exploded, and I saw just this huge shift in who gets to make a game and what games are about, and that really fascinated me, and I moved more towards looking at these different levers and mechanisms in the industry and how they do determine who gets to make a game and why and what they're about. So that moved me more into publishing and business development and developer relations and kind of going from one game at a time to like 200 at a time when I was at Ouya, and then 100 at a time when I was at Google Daydream, and now work with external developers, creating experiences with Niantic for the real world.
That's awesome. I still go Kellee equals journey to me. That's all I needed. All right. I'm a little different. So I'm a senior producer at Niantic working with the Black Developer Initiative, which we will be talking about. Before then, you'll see a pair of keys. So before I got in the business, I was a concierge. I used to tell people where to go, where the bathroom was, realistically just where the bathroom was. When I was working there, I had a colleague who was just like, you like video games, you should work in video games. And to me, that logic is like infallible. But at the same time, it was like, not smart enough, I don't think. You know, how I don't have an in. I'm gonna be a concierge. She said, nope. When my boyfriend has an opportunity at his work, you're gonna apply for it. Fast forward a few months, she calls me up and she's like, there's an opportunity, you're gonna apply for it. And she was like, okay, so I'm gonna tell you the website. Have you heard of a place called LucasArts? And I was like, I have such things. So there, I was a contract QA tester where I worked on Star Wars and Indiana Jones. From there, I got promoted to assistant QA lead where I worked on some Lego games, you name it, pretty much near the end of LucasArts. From there, I ran into a couple of old coworkers who were like, you need to leave LucasArts and come over here. We got a laptop, you're getting a phone, we got snacks, and it's a mobile space. So I said, okay, cool. So I went over there, became QA lead at DNA West, which used to be NGMoco. From there, at some point, I guess I did a good enough job where they were like, hey, do you want to be an event producer? I said, sure, I'll do it until you find someone better. A few months after that, they asked me if I wanted to be a product owner of Transformers, Legends, and then eventually I became a product owner of another Transformers game, and then I became the lead event producer for a Marvel game. I'm the IP guy. That's where I got started. I moved over to wargaming from that point, and then worked some other spots until Kellee found me for this program we're going to talk about and kind of where my focus has been the last bit. So what is the Black Developer Initiative at Niantic? It was founded during the BLM, you know, the height of the BLM era. We were trying to figure out a way to do what was right. So we founded a program to promote and empower Black game AR developers, geolocation developers, to give them opportunities. We want to see their experiences, and that's what we're working towards. But what we're going to kind of go through is certain things that we kind of learned along the way. You want to add anything, Kellee?
No, I don't think. I think, are we gonna?
Yeah, we're gonna jump.
Show the developers next. Is that what it is?
Yeah. Cool. We got this cool slide. This is my favorite.
Yeah.
So to date, these are the developers we've currently worked with. Take a picture, reach out to them. They're amazing developers, even not in the AR space. They deserve the recognition that they deserve. They are some of the hardest working people I've got the pleasure to know during this process. All of them are, starting up and coming developers in the space that, needs more of these voices, needs more of this representation. Some of them go from adventure games. Some of them had some really crazy AR, like audio AR stuff. It's really dope. I do want to call out, should I call out Wicked Saints now or leave it for later?
No, go for it, yeah.
Yeah, so Wicked Saints was the actual first team to go through our cohort experience, the first BDI program. And though they didn't necessarily move forward with us the way we would like them to, they were able to take their prototype, their pitch deck and everything that they built, and they were able to get a pre-seed round of $1.1 million. So.
Pretty so.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome.
Really quickly, just because, this isn't about BDI, but it is the context in which this talk isn't about, but this is the context in which we work together and obviously our foundation for our learnings here. And so just to give a little bit more context, when we created it, we really initially took the model of external publishing and the way we engage with developers through funding a concept phase. We made some adjustments and tweaks, added additional programming and mentorship to it. And kind of that was the first iteration of BDI that these teams went through. And then we have since taken some of these learnings that we're talking about, applied them to reformatting it and are going through kicking off a new cohort now. That's the general context.
Said it better?
Okay.
Said it better than I could. All right, let's go.
I doubt that.
Yeah, all right, we'll see. All right, let's define the problem. We are going to define the problem. Here's the problem. This is from the IGDA in 2019. 81% identify as white, 7% Hispanic, Latinx, 2% identify as Black, African American, African, Afro-Caribbean. Guess what? If I was to go back to 2014, it's the same statistic. Hasn't changed. We have newer D&I initiatives, but at the same time, that number has not moved up. So part of the problem is access, opportunity, and funding, right? We know this, we offer this is what kind of most of these programs do, but it's still imperfect. It's not a way for us to be able to fully engage a team beyond one of these length of time. Like if we're just sitting there doing this for 5 months, what happens after the 5th month? What happens after the 6th month? Because we're finding that in certain instances with people who go through these groups, confirmation biases appear, people playing or having issues asking for help. They don't want to go through this program, or a program like it, even though we're offering access, opportunity, and funding because it's seen as a weakness. Even people who go through programs like this, who then hear of other people going through programs like this, offer prejudice against programs like this. That was good for me at the time, but not necessarily good for me as in my next position or my next spot, my next group. Whatever way it goes, it's the same win states. Using the same success metrics. So here's the thing. I don't know about all of you, but I know that whenever I go to a company or every place I go to, I feel like I have to be the hardest worker in the room. I have to be exceptional just to be normal. And this is exactly what kind of happens within programs or initiatives or anything that runs like this, is you're just looking for the exceptional instead of just a perspective, a new point, providing experience. It's like when you're at that point looking for those metrics of success, and then you look at what your company's going to establish in terms of experience and what they would greenlight or publish or produce or whatever, a lot of times they'll just then go, well, they don't have the experience. Well, here's the thing. How does a team get experience if they're never given opportunity in the first place? This one I thought was really clever. Hopefully you'll see the dichotomy in this. So here's the thing, right? We at Niantic, people who are part of the Web3 wave, blockchain, crypto, however you name it, we are in this emergent technology. We are now at a moment of time where people are starting to establish themselves and given potential opportunities. But the problem is emergent technology is the divide between people with resources and those without. Eventually, when the divide is kind of nullified by the fact that there's been mass adoption, it's no longer valuable. It's no longer as opportunistic as a lot of people can kind of grow up with this. And I mean, look, this doesn't just happen in tech, it happens everywhere. Any place you work, any place you go, you will see that there are those with resources and those without. But I say that all kind of doom and gloom like. We can change that. Everyone in this room at least is interested in learning how to do more or learning what we did, so that's the start. But overall, the current message is the barrier to entry changes, but the message is staying the same. The more we innovate, the more we discriminate. The industry is kind of optimized with a certain person in mind, with a certain amount of education, biases intertwined in a pipeline. I call it a pipeline of privilege. You know, and when we have teams that kind of go through this who might not necessarily have the same access to these pipelines, like the teams we showed you earlier, those biases play against them. It's not built for teams who are just up and coming. It's built for established status quo. We need to think about creating pipelines that provide those opportunities, that avoid, the social economic side of things, that look to provide opportunities for people who are interested in this space. Because it's a huge effing problem. The current message is we all need to work on this together. Spoiler alert to the end of this, Niantic can't do this alone. We are just one company pushing our one objective, our one mission with this and wanting to see the space as diverse. But everyone here who has opportunity to work with the company, we're gonna need your help. The industry needs your help. So here's where the metaverse comes in. I'm sure some of you are interested. John Hankey put out a blog post about defining the metaverse. Niantic's is very real world based. But this quote specifically is what stuck with me. Helping to achieve this meta shift is our purpose at Niantic, but we recognize that it won't be solely our work. Such a massive evolution will require the work of big companies, startups, and individuals around the world to become a reality. I don't want those individuals, those startups, and those companies to be only certain companies, certain individuals. If we're going to be looking at a new boom, a new opportunity here, moving into the metaverse or whatever, we need to define lines that are free and open for all to be able to express themselves, show opportunities, and present, growth. Why it needs to be done. This one's probably a silly slide, but it's true. So this starts with, I have a friend. Yes, I have friends, believe it or not. And this is kind of what got me thinking about this and wanting to work in this space and understanding that maybe the origin story I gave you of me was probably a little bit, rare for this space. So my friend, she reached out to me and was like, hey, my son's really interested in video games and he wants to know if there's an internship at your work. And I said, nope. And he's like, well, can you set up something for him? I was like, no, we don't really have any type of internships that doesn't count into like the senior year of college in a role or something specific like that. We don't really have anything for someone younger, someone looking for other opportunities or space. So I took that and I was like, okay, I could be like, you can come sit at my desk, but it's not the same thing as kind of experiencing it. And I felt it would be disservice to be like, hey, you know what? Wait till you're in your mid-20s, you're working at a desk, someone's going to offer you an opportunity of a lifetime. You're going to have to take it, you're going to have to nail that job, and then you're going to have to work really, really hard to stay in this industry. But then you'll be in it. I felt like that was not the message I wanted to be able to give them, because it's not fair. I know my journey, some pun intended, I know my journey is different than yours, but I wanted to be able to provide a more open space. So that's kind of what got me thinking about, how do we increase the devs in this space? What can I do? More devs in the space equal more experiences, more points of view. Wouldn't you say, Kellee?
Yeah.
There you
They
go.
make different stuff.
Yeah, like I'm going to tell you, some of the designs that I've seen come through the BDI program that we've had show a lot of different experiences that other game designs don't. They're not just match threes. They're built on experiences that they have from soft post-apocalyptic worlds that are founded because they were negativity in the world and everyone was doing wrong and just wanting to right those rights, to those showing the whole world covered in water because humans need to do better, to ones being able to want to be able to just print their words and have them be seen on the streets through special locations, to social economic based ones that and social activism games that are wanting to empower kids of the future so that they can have courage. I mean, that's not like, no knock in Candy Crush, but that's not Candy Crush. Right? This is something that someone is experiencing and they need to tell these stories. I want them to be able to tell their stories. I want them to be able to see their lights, because I think more points of view broaden everyone's horizon. Wealth. Let's just face it. Independence begins with money. With money, you can have security, you can have longevity. Because one of the biggest things that we all know, those who work in the industry for a while, is longevity is tough. If you're able to survive a space or be a dev in this space for longer than a couple of years, you're doing something all right. But for that means you need security, you need wealth. One of the massive tenets out of all the things that we think about in BDI, and this is truly almost nebulous, is thinking about it in terms of generational wealth. Being able to have someone be able to provide for someone who can provide for someone. Having those opportunities to have access to wealth means that they can tell their stories. Being able to tell their stories mean that they can be able to keep telling their stories for generations. But it does start with money. We need to be able to provide money in some way, shape, or form.
Can I add something to that one?
Please.
Because I like this one. Going back to that statistic that we found reached back all the way to 2014 of 2% of developers in the industry that identify as Black. I'm assuming it was there at best the previous decade, likely even lower. And I think about, again, my own journey through independent game development, that explosion of digital distribution, how many people were shut out of the wealth that was generated by that shift in our industry. And right now with XR, we're in a similar state. It's a new opportunity. The developers that get in now will have more opportunities and will be leaders just a year or 2 or 3 from now. I think we're already seeing that in the VR space, and we're seeing the trends of that in AR again. So this is a really big deal.
It's like, striking when the iron's hot.
Yeah.
This is the moment. Like, we could do a lot. We need to be able to do a lot together with this type of stuff, because we don't want to wait until Web 4.0, whatever that is. I don't want to know what 4.0 is. Oof. But yeah, Kellee jumped the gun. A moment of time equals opportunity.
Oh, sorry.
No worries. You're good. All right. Because what I found is representation is both inspiration and innovation. I actually wrote this, so I'm pretty proud of it, to be honest. The TLDR of this really short sentence is, if we are to grow as an industry and as a people, we need to pave the way for others and stop following the same cycles that we find ourselves in. And, you know, it can go from the ways to how you produce things, to how you hire, to how you are looking for devs maybe with more experience, but maybe you might want to take a chance on somebody to kind of go back, find that experience, help them grow in this industry instead of discounting them right off the rip. Like I said earlier, we need your help in this. This is something that we need to all be aware of. We need to make changes. You know, initiatives and programs like this live or die by participation. So if you have one or you know of one, help with it. So what can you do though? So we have these. These are just some ideas. These are some things that we kind of take a look at when we work with our teams, our current cohorts, and our new cohorts as well.
Yeah, share your cheat codes, which I got from the incredible Trinidad Hermidad. You know, the idea of just all those little things that we've all picked up along the way in the jobs. I know, especially in, I think our generation and older, we didn't have a lot of formal training on the job. We picked up things as we went. How can you take a moment, share with someone else like that trick you learned or that template you always use when you're starting a game design document. These little things I think I sometimes don't even realize that I picked up along the way and yeah, let other people into that.
I'm a big fan of the Kobayashi Maru from Star Trek because I like the idea that, you know, Kirk didn't believe there was an unwinnable scenario. And so when I think of cheat codes, that's what I think of. Just because someone says you can't do it doesn't mean you can't find a way to cheat it. Because sometimes cheating's good. Sometimes. Look at a way to be less optimized. You wrote this one, so.
Yeah, I mean, it goes back to what John was talking about earlier. I think when I think of the system, like how do we do things the fastest way possible? And that is often including biases that come through these systems that have been sort of copy and pasted throughout the history of industry, from who we hire, the colleges we're hiring from, the way we organize our meetings, the way we communicate online. There's so many ways in which it's just easy to do it the way we've always done it. And it's not really about becoming less optimized, but it just takes that little bit of extra effort to think about how can you do it differently? How can you be including people in a conversation? How can you be looking at taking your university outreach efforts and like shifting them to colleges your company normally hasn't looked at? And it just takes a moment, and then it becomes the optimized way, and it becomes a new process, but it just takes a beat to create a different system.
Yep. But also spend time elevating your Black, Indigenous, other people of color at work. One of the big things that I have to shout out is that through my journey, through my way of getting through the year, I had people who believed in me. People who I normally wouldn't expect to believe in me, but they believed in me, they supported me, and they pushed me through. And, you know, I'm completely 100% grateful for that. And I can guarantee anyone else in your space who might be like, hey, maybe there is a QA guy there, but he's really interested in, you know, production, take a chance. Or maybe someone seems really confident about game design, take a chance. Or when you're meeting other developers in the space, if you have the option to work with them, take a chance, see what they can do, because I guarantee you'll get some stuff that's going to be great. Do you have a D&I program in your team or office? Offer your support, offer your time, offer your help. If you don't, make one, or go ask how to make one, or go try to work towards that, or build ERGs, you know, that are within your company that you can kind of help support and perpetuate this stuff. I mean, I love this note that Kellee added this like last minute, so I was surprised. But literally consider how your team, your company is setting up, Black, Indigenous, people of color employees for future success. This includes pay equity, career development, opportunities for advancement. Again, I was fortunate, but I know I'm an outlier. I know I'm in rarefied space when it comes to this. I would like to change that. And like I said, don't have a D&I program work, find out how to start one. Maybe if it doesn't have one, maybe find one that does have one, whatever works with that space.
Yeah, if I may.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm gonna ask you first. Okay. John knows I have a propensity to just like jump in when I know the answer and stuff. So I'm like, John, just tell me exactly when I'm supposed to talk. The two ways I see that most of that second to last bullet point, teams falling short. I think is one is kind of related to this, actually they're both kind of related to the same thing, which is like giving teams that do the work in hiring more inclusively, but then are either under-leveling or underpaying those people, which then set them back for the next 3 to 5 years at least on their career trajectory, because as you know, it's becoming less popular in some sectors, but for the most part, you negotiate your next job, based on your last salary, based on your last title. So that's something to consider. And then the second is, again, I think we come from the school of we got promoted by, what it's like battlefield promotions.
Yeah.
Like somebody, suddenly the opportunity came up and it was like, you do the job and then you figure it out. And we succeeded in that, but that is definitely not the most inclusive way to go about promoting and fostering talent. And so become a better manager, or get your managers to become better managers. Really think about how you're fostering career development and those opportunities for advancement. Be clear on your job ladders, I think would be the third one.
That's great. Yeah, like those battlefield promotions, I can guarantee I didn't have as much gray in my beard as I do now. And I was definitely a lot of gray in your beard too. Yeah, that's fair. Well, that's all we have. I will say that at Niantic, we try to move quick through meetings and give people some time back, but I guess I cut through this a little short. But I want to thank you all for taking the time to sit down and listen to us kind of talk about it. A real TLDR of all this is, if you're working in the metaverse, you're working in these spaces, make them more inclusive, please. It starts with you. Thank you.
Thank you.